the first episode of Completely Booked,
the official podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library.
What up, Jacksonville?
904.
Woo-woo! This is super exciting. I am Jenna Hassel, the Community Relations and Marketing Coordinator here at the Jacksonville Public Library.
And I'm Hurley Winkler, the Lifelong Learning and Community Engagement Assistant here at the Jacksonville Public Library.
What a title. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. But welcome, everyone. Thank you for listening. This is a super exciting project we've been working on for a long time. And we're really just going to highlight some stories from you guys and talk about, you know, cool stuff in Jacksonville, cool people in Jacksonville.
Cool things happening here at the library.
Of course, it's all about the library. But yeah, oh, and we forgot to mention, producer Brian is also here with us. He is the sound engineer extraordinaire, music extraordinaire, and anything else that we need him to be, basically.
He's also our best friend.
Yeah.
Give a hand for Brian wherever you are. Unless you're driving, don't give him a hand. We need you to drive.
And he's not on social media, so don't try to find him. Sorry.
Sorry, ladies.
But yeah, so Hurley and I are like super excited to get started on this and ramble and talk to cool people regularly.
Cool people are the best, and we have a lot of them here in Jacksonville.
So on our podcast, we're going to have people that have a tie to the library, like our friends from IRA. We're going to talk to them at one point. They help visually impaired people see and navigate the world, and they also have a meetup group that meets at our South Mandarin Library. So that's another cool interview we're going to have. We're going to talk to local business people, like our friends from Social Grounds Coffee, and hear their story. We're going to talk to
Terry from Fun for First Coast Kids.
Yes, and see some really cool stuff you can do this summer with the kiddos, get them out of the house. So that'll be super fun. And then also one of Hurley's friends will be here.
Yes, my co-collaborator, Asia Miskin, who makes a zine with me called Nickname. She will be here.
She's an amazing illustrator as well, so that will be fun.
Indeed.
And we'll talk about the zine collection that we have at the main library.
Yes.
So check that out. But we're also, you know, going to highlight events that we have. Hurley and I both work on the Jack's Book Fest, which is in February.
We do. It's the literary event of the year. At the main library. And it's huge and fun. And we're going to be talking about that. We'll be talking to some of our local authors who are involved in the Book Fest, as well as non-local authors who will be visiting the Book Fest.
Big wigs.
Big wigs.
Can't wait to find out who that might be. Spoiler.
Coming soon. So one of the coolest things we have here at the main library is the Jack's Makerspace Gallery, which is a rotating art space that exhibits art done by people in the community on different topics. So our theme right now that runs through July 22nd is Prescribed Expression, Relief in the Healing Arts, and it includes a lot of amazing abstract expressionist art from different people in the community. And we had the privilege of interviewing one of the artist's moms for the podcast.
Yeah, so Joshua Turnage is one of the artists in our current show, Prescribed Expression, and he is nonverbal and wheelchair-bound and creates these amazing resin drop paintings that have turned out to be really popular. And he's gotten a couple offers from collectors to buy them from our gallery. So we got to talk to his mom, Kendra, and learn a little bit about her and how Joshua got started in creating these art pieces and how he does it, because, you know, she was telling us that he really doesn't have as much movement in his hands and stuff. So they really got creative in creating these pieces and getting him to, you know, be able to do them in his current situation. So that's a really, really cool story. And, you know, and the interesting thing to me was that no one else is doing it this way. They really had to be creative in how they figured out, you know, how Joshua could paint, you know, because he's, like I said, in a wheelchair. He can't see. He doesn't speak. So it was trial and error, she said. And, you know, the result is really incredible. So I'm really glad we got to talk to her. And we'll have some of his, some pictures from the podcast up on our Facebook page at Jack's Library, and also a link to his website so you can see the amazing things that he creates.
Yeah, it was amazing learning all about Joshua's project and his art, and it's really we were really excited to talk to his mom.
Yeah, his mom is incredible too, and she's a nurse, which I was like, I wonder if that was just a, coincidence almost that she had the perfect career,
Right?
to
Yeah.
take care of Joshua. He was born so prematurely that, he spent most of his life in NICU.
Right.
So it's really, really cool. So without further ado, here is Kendra Turnage telling us about her son, Joshua.
Kendra Turnage, welcome to Completely Booked. We're so happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Wonderful. So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for a living, and are you originally from Jacksonville?
I am not originally from Jacksonville. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I am a critical care nurse of 35 years.
Wow.
I was a Navy Reserve Nurse Corps nurse. I'm a wife, a mother of 3 lovely children. I have Ariel, who's my Army soldier. She's currently deployed. I have Joshua as my artist, and Gabrielle is my musician. And I presently work as a special education advocate for a law firm in the state of Florida.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it sounds like you're very, very busy, and you have a
Yes.
pretty extraordinary son, Joshua, who you mentioned. He's an artist. Tell us a little bit about him.
Joshua will be 23 years old next month in July.
Wow.
He was born extremely early, weighed about a pound, fit in the palm of my hand. He spent the better part of the first year of his life in neonatal ICU. He lost what little vision he had at about age 4. He has cerebral palsy, which has left him with limited motor skills. He's nonverbal and wheelchair bound.
Wow. And he's an incredible artist.
I think so.
Yes, we think
We
so
do too.
We have had the pleasure of seeing Joshua's art in the Jack's Makerspace Gallery right now. It's hanging in our prescribed expression exhibit here. So we completely agree. He's a pretty remarkable artist, and you should be very proud. How did he first get started in art?
I have to say, probably was when he was entering high school. As a student with disabilities, he had what's called an individual education plan and a team of people called an IEP team who were responsible for developing his plan and implementing his plan. And at the time, I have to say that the IEP team was at a complete loss as to what someone with Joshua's profound disabilities could possibly do that's meaningful. So our family core beliefs are what drove us to the point that we are now. We have a spiritual belief that everybody's life has value. Everyone was here for a purpose. And philosophically, we believe that everyone needs a reason to get out of bed in the morning.
Wow.
Everyone needs to do something that they can be proud of.
Absolutely.
So that's really what drove the process. I worked with my home occupational therapist and home vision specialist, and we really looked at it from a different perspective than the school did. We looked at what skills set does he have now, and what could he do that we could springboard off of those skills. We decided at that time that abstract art would be a good avenue to pursue, because art is anything you really want it to be, and you don't need vision to create it.
Right.
At that time, we were fortunate enough to meet Joshua's art therapist and art teacher, Kelly D'Souza, with Indigo Art. And she worked with him privately on the initial painting process and discovered that he enjoys painting to music, and some of his work showed great promise.
Oh, wow. And I didn't know he listened to music while he painted. What kind of music
Yes.
does he listen to?
Well, funny you ask that. He has a very diverse playlist. He likes anything from Ozzy Osbourne to Kenny Chesney to George Winston.
Wow, that is pretty diverse. Yeah.
So he, being nonverbal, he most recently has been working with a speech therapist at Brooks, and he was provided with a communication board. So now he can select what music he wants to listen to and what music he wants to paint to. And that.
Wonderful. Can you describe Joshua's process with his paintings a little bit?
It's rather involved, and it's always evolving. with his challenges, you have to think outside the box quite a bit. The first thing that we just talked about that proved to be the most difficult task to master was, as a blind person, how do you pick your colors? So we tried various tactile things and they were unsuccessful. What we ended up doing was, since he likes music, to paint to music, and he has a diverse playlist, we predetermined color palettes to each different genre of music. So when he picks jazz to listen to, that will automatically bring up a certain color palette.
Interesting.
The next thing that was challenging was, how does he dispense the paints? After a lot of trial and error, we settled on an alcoholic beverage dispenser, and instead of it's switch activated. So instead of hitting a switch for vodka, he hits a switch. We put those color palette based on the music that he chose. We put those colors in the dispenser, and when he activates a switch, it'll dispense each of those colors individually.
That's very inventive of you.
Is anyone else doing this process? Like, was there research that you guys went to, or is this totally just trial and error and figuring out what works for him?
Yes, it's trial and error.
Wow, that's so cool.
How do I say it? I have ideas in my head, but I'm not mechanically inclined enough or engineering enough to do something. So I have to look at what's available to purchase and figure out how to
manipulate it for what you need it to do.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So that's how we dispense the paint. And then as far as manipulating the paint on canvas, because he's essentially stationary in a wheelchair, we have a jig, if you will, an apparatus that spins the canvas and it tilts the canvas. Then he uses adaptive tools such as sponges, brushes, trowels, anything to spread paint on. It could be a piece of material, any textured item, his hands, a butter dish, whatever, to manipulate the paint on the canvas. That's pretty much the process.
Wonderful.
And it's constantly evolving. Things work one day, they may not work the other day, or he gets tired of the same old things, so we have to change it up.
Wow.
Sorry.
Is there like a spot in your house that you do this, or does he have somewhere that he goes?
No, right now we're using the bonus room. It used to be the playroom for the kids, and now it's his art studio.
Very cool.
So in his work in the Prescribed Expression exhibit here in the Jack's Makerspace Gallery at the main library, Joshua's paintings include a layer of resin on top of his abstract acrylic brushstrokes and paint drops. This creates a shinier, smoother surface on top of a pretty much otherwise chaotic mix of colors and texture, as abstract expressionism typically goes. So I'm wondering what drew Joshua to using the resin on top of his paintings.
That was actually my choice.
Oh, interesting.
It was out of necessity because Joshua is all tactual based. So as we complete a painting and it dries, we have them stacked to put backing on them or whatever. He grabs them, he throws them, and acrylic paint is very soft. So I came up with resining them because otherwise he might destroy them before we ever get them to where they need to be.
Gotcha. So it's sort of like putting it at the finish line.
Yes. It puts the resin is a very hard surface, so he can't bang it around and damage it, but also most of our family is from St. Louis, and we have sold a few paintings to them. So when I box them up, I need something that doesn't get destroyed or scratched or ruined in the shipping process.
Right.
And I personally think resin it brings out the colors.
Absolutely.
It certainly can make a not so special painting much special.
Yeah. It definitely stands out in the gallery, too,
Yes.
under those lights and everything. It looks really cool.
It does. Yeah, the colors are very vibrant. And it's interesting to know now with the music how the color palettes emerged. Yeah. Cool. So is Prescribed Expression Joshua's first art show?
Yes and no.
Okay.
We've had some informal showings of his work, like at a wine tasting that we've hosted, little things like that, informal things like that. But this is his first professional art exhibit.
Wonderful. And I hear you've received some interest from collectors in purchasing Joshua's work from the exhibit. What is that like for both of you?
It's incredible. For me, it's one thing as his mom to look at a painting and think it's the most amazing thing on earth. But again, I'm just his mom. So it's incredible to see people react to his work, and people that don't even know his story. They just value the work
As an artist, yeah.
as an artist.
That's so cool.
It's just incredible to get that affirmation that all of our persistence and stubbornness and thinking out of the box and trying to come up with ways to help him do this, it's really worthwhile. It just confirms that. And anyone who was here on opening night that happened to see him would testify that he was ecstatic. Of course, being nonverbal, being blind, I had to narrate what was going on. And there were people up here taking pictures of his nameplate on some of his paintings, and I was narrating that to him. And he had the biggest smile I have seen in years on his face. He was laughing, he was chuckling. He was very proud.
Yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear. So what's next for Joshua in his art career?
More painting. We try and paint every single day.
Wonderful.
We have applied for a scholarship. So it's a national scholarship.
That's
so
very
that's
exciting.
kind of fun. It's through Very Special Arts. So the submission deadline was last week. So that they have, I believe, 15 or so awards. So I'm excited just to try that. We are presently looking at other places to display his work. And then, of course, the new website that we have coming up next week is exciting as well.
Very exciting. So how else can we see Joshua's work online and elsewhere?
Right now, he has a new website. It is currently, until next week, it has a sign that says under construction coming soon, and it will take you directly to his Etsy shop. But after next week, you'll be able to see his story. You'll be able to follow his news, events, and places that you can see his work will be listed on there. We will have little snippets of videos of him making the paint, going through the process. It also links to his Facebook page and his Instagram. And of course, there's a shop built right into it, so you'll be able to purchase his work right there.
Wonderful.
And you can always see his work here at the main library in Prescribed Expression until July 22nd. So make sure everyone comes out to see that. We also had one more question. What did Joshua say he wanted to be or wants to be when he grows up?
Well, being nonverbal, he's never had a chance to express that yet, but he was recently provided with a communication board, so I hope that one day we'll hear that answer. What I can say is Joshua's work is an inspiration to all of us. His story is one of hope and faith, that anything is possible. I'm sorry, it's a little emotional. Basically, each of us have challenges in our own way. And with faith, hope, determination, persistence, you're able to look at things from a different perspective, take a different angle, much like we did Joshua's obstacles, and find a new path around those obstacles. And that's really, I think, the message for all of us with Joshua's paintings and his story.
Absolutely. And you guys definitely, the support system that he has, it's obvious that you guys really put in a lot of effort to, make sure he had this opportunity. And I think that's amazing. And another thing I was thinking of, can you see a change in his attitude and mood on the days that he does paint as opposed to the days he doesn't get to paint?
Yes and no. Generally, he loves to paint, and you can see it. He gets excited. There are days where he just isn't feeling it, and that's okay. We don't force him. We try and prod him a little, but it's not going to work if he's not into it. But what we have noticed is when he does get into it, some of the paintings in the gallery exhibit are different. You don't quite see that as much, but some of his earlier works where it was all sponge and brush strokes, you could see the difference in the music. As the beat, if you're listening to something like smooth jazz, the strokes are lighter and freer. When he's listening to something like AC/DC, the strokes are harder and bolder, and it really makes a difference. You can see it in his paintings. And the cool thing about it is we have a journal, so we video all of his painting sessions, and we record the story behind each painting. So when people purchase a painting, they'll be able to see the story behind it. What music was he listening to? What was his mood that day? That type of thing.
That's incredible.
It's really cool.
And that'll all be on the new website, I'm
Yes.
guessing? Oh, cool. Sweet. Well, we'll definitely post that on our Facebook page at Jack's Library as well for you guys to check it out.
Well, Kendra, it's been such a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for coming and telling us about your incredible son and about your role as a mother. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so grateful that you allowed us to tell his story and share his artwork with everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
That was totally amazing. It was so cool to learn more about what Joshua's doing. And especially, I didn't know that he made all of his paintings to music. Like,
I
that's
know.
so cool.
I'm like still in shock of how they figured out how to get him to be able to do those paintings and, you know, the genre with the color schemes
Right.
and stuff. It's so creative, and obviously it's amazing the way they turn out.
Yeah, we were lucky to, after the podcast, after we recorded, we went up into the gallery with Joshua and looked at his paintings with him, and he just had the biggest smile on his face. It was so great to be able to be there with his paintings and see the pride on his face. It was very evident.
And I was here for the gallery opening as well, and I got to meet Kendra then. And like she said, he really was so excited. And
Right.
just early when we were up in the gallery with him, when we recorded that interview, we definitely got a woo out of him. She kept saying, like, Joshua, give us a woo.
Yeah, and he said, woo!
And he did. It was so cute. I love
Yeah.
that. That was amazing. And like we said, you can find Joshua's artwork at jtvisionsart.com and check out his work. And she was telling us afterwards that she has a couple collections. So there's a home decor collection that's more affordable for people to smaller pieces.
Yeah, and then a more fine art collection that's a little more pricey, but definitely super special.
Yeah. And, you know, it's so appropriate that art is accessible for him to create, and it's also accessible for us to buy as well, which I think is pretty fitting.
Yeah, it's clear that Kendra really values that.
Oh, yeah. And like she was saying that they've documented every session that he's done and recorded, like, what he was listening to. I think that's amazing.
Right. I love that she had the foresight to think
yeah.
of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that she
It
never
adds a
dreamed.
lot to the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that this would be as far along as it is now with the whole website and being in an art show and people, you know, in the art world actually wanting to purchase his work without even knowing his story. I think
Right.
is really, really cool.
Yeah, the story adds so much to the work.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. So make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're listening now, Apple Podcasts or wherever else you get podcasts. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Jack's Library, and our podcast will be bi-weekly, so make sure you tune in a couple of weeks. And
Yeah. And you can also catch us on the jackspubliclibrary.org website. It's jackspubliclibrary.org/podcast. Our episodes will be up there, and there will also be a link to subscribe. So don't forget to do that.
we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Jenna,
And I'm Hurley.
and this is
Completely booked.